Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Jazz Shepard here. This is going to be a little mini part 2 on the late 50s of the Prestige label. They started in 1956-57 a little side label called New Jazz. And when you're first collecting, you don't recognize it. It's just Prestige with a different logo, different center, label. And it's the same artists, a lot of the same sessions. A lot of things will come out on both, so it can be quite confusing. New Jazz tends to cover the more experimental stuff. If it's more modern and eclectic, it's probably going to be in the New Jazz imprint. And the 7000 regular Prestige series eventually goes very much into the soul jazz genre. And they keep issuing the big guys like Miles and Monk and Rollins, who've long left the label. But we're going to find a new picture for that session and keep releasing it on the 7000 series. So it's a bit confusing, no question about it. So that's partly why I'm going to make this to show you guys. Mal Waldron, another fantastic piano player, arranger, produced a lot of great sessions. This is the first New Jazz record. Nice little record, fairly modern, its approach. This Art Farmer record, Farmer's Market, great stuff. Love that record. Jerome Richardson, the flute player, has a number of great records here on the New Jazz label. Steve Lacy. George Wallington. This stuff's going to tend to be more from one session by one guy. Another great Mal Waldron record. Another Dorothy Ashby record, the harp player. This record with Chambers, Phineas Newborn, and Roy Haynes, B3, fantastic little trio, really swings hard. Teddy Charles, the West Coast player, great stuff, big fan of his stuff. Yusef Lateef has a number of records here on New Jazz. Some are issued on both once again. Penny Colson has 3 great records here on New Jazz. There's the other Art Taylor record, which I showed you on the Prestige. Johnny Hammond Smith, the organ player. Their answer to Jimmy Smith. Modern Jazz Disciples has a couple of records here. They're an interesting little group. I think out of Detroit, if I recall. Good little players. Lem Winchester. Oliver Nelson, Kenny Dorham. This is an example of a little more forward-thinking jazz, modern, forward-thinking, and maybe a little bit more than we want to put it on the regular 7000 series, so we'll put it on the New Jazz imprint. And I think for the most part, what Bob Weinstock's doing, he's trying to make money, Ray Draper, the tuba player. I think Coltrane's on this one for me. Yep. It's a really good record, actually. He really can play that tuba. And I can't imagine what kind of lung capacity you'd have to play bebop to a tuba. It's pretty much beyond my comprehending. G.G. Grice, Jackie McLean. Again, this is pretty modern forward jazz for Prestige. And a lot of this New Jazz stuff is comparable to what's going on in Blue Note. Bobby Timmons, John Jenkins, and Clifford Jordan. That's going to compare to some of the Blue Note stuff happening. Another Oliver Nelson record is fantastic. More Yusef Lateef. More Benny Golson. So what we're seeing pretty consistently on the New Jazz label, it's very modern, it's very much more session based, and they're going to feel fairly cohesive, generally speaking, than their Prestige counterparts in the same time frame. The Prestige stuff was still issuing all the early 50s, even late 40s stuff, and the Prestige catalog is so immense. I'm talking 4 years here, there's 130 records we're covering. It's pretty impressive. Always buy a Prestige when you see it. Even if they're beat up, trust me, they'll play. It's a proud legacy. I can't say it enough. Jazz is an important part of our history. So buy it, listen to it, share it, but most important, feel. Feel the state of mind that these individual players are going through. And it's when you apply that empathy and that feel that you can tell how different a Shelly Manne West Coast record is from the urgency of a Gigi Grice. It's a very different expunging of how I feel. And Weinstock allowed them to blow and express a lot. It's not as refined and as finite as what Alfred Line's doing across the town over at Blue Note, but it's better than what Savoy's allowing them to do. And it's on par with Riverside for the most part, which we're going to cover Riverside next episode in season two. Their late 50s releases, pretty solid stuff over at Riverside with Warren Keep News and Bill Grauer. It's an amazing time in jazz, the late 50s. There's so much happening so quickly, so rapidly. The bebop thing didn't last for 2 decades. The bebop thing happens during the war, gets recorded immediately after the war into the early 50s, but then jazz starts going all these infinite directions. And so by the time you get to 1959, jazz is on 10 different expressways, going 10 different speeds, 10 different directions at all times. And it's a lot to try to keep track of. It's a lot to try to comprehend. So that's what these videos are trying to help people do, is see what different labels are embracing, who's allowing stuff to really move in certain directions, who's fettering and putting the brakes on things. It's an amazing time in American history. New York was the center of all of this. I wish I could be there. If I could go back in time to any place, it would probably be New York, 1956, 57, down on 52nd Street, walking those streets, looking at those old, beautiful old buildings, taking in this new modern era of the post-war American dream and how we thought freedom was just around the corner. The sacrifices made during the war and the blacks that came home from that conflict, there was a guarded optimism thinking that we have to be part of this quilt. We need to be part of this assembly. The tired, the tattered, the worn, the statues right there across the harbor, it's saying we should be part of this. We've died for this. We fought in your Civil War. We fought in your World War I. We fought in your World War II. Here we are. We're a participant. We're not just standing here asking for a handout. We're not just trying to cause chaos in the streets. We are trying to help build this republic. And there's an elite that needs to keep the masses divided, and race is one of those mechanisms. So they will artificially fortify that gap between us by only illustrating and illuminating the problems, the strifes, and the conflicts. They won't ever talk about the gains and the strides that we make and the fabric that we stitch together and the good that we do, not just to our own race, but across the aisle. And I feel like we're going in the wrong direction. Appreciate you all for checking me out. I'm the Jazz Shepherd. We'll be back at you soon, Pete, with Riverside. Y'all have a great night. Peace.